So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of our webinar Wednesday series. Today, we're going to be talking about using the freestyle tool within Creo and a little bit of the ISDX functionality and how that also works with Keyshot for your industrial design team. So you can create a pretty stunning product design concepts with these two tools, and it'll allow you to get your concepts to a more finalized look using this. So before we get into that, just a little bit about myself. My name is Keith Morris. I am a technical specialist here with PDSVISION. My background is in 3D design. I have additive manufacturing or 3D printing experience as well. And I also specialize in animation and rendering, which we'll touch on Keyshot towards the end a little bit. We were formerly Boundary Systems, but now we're now a part of PDSVISION. We're the technology leader in PTC's global reseller platform and preferred services provider. We have capabilities in consulting, cloud, and help desk, as well as professional training. This is just a brief timeline here to show you how we've grown from Boundary Systems in 2006, and then in 2018 when we were acquired by PDSVISION. And you can see all our locations in that map. These are our partners. PTC being the big one. We also are partnered with Moldex 3D and ZW CAD, and you see Keyshot in there, which we're obviously touching on today, just to name a few. This digital thread is a concept on how PTC software suite integrates with your workflow and where that's utilized in your manufacturing process. So depending on what you're doing, you can fall anywhere within these rings using this concept. This graph shows that it could lead to reduced time to market and also downtime and costs to reduce those things. All right, so before we get into the demo part of this, I'd like to talk about some functionality and benefits within the Freestyle tool, and then we'll get into the feature itself. This Freestyle tool can create conceptual designs using free-form modeling and sculpting versus traditional boundary blends. If you're within Creo and you've typically worked with curves or splines to build your curve networks to create surfaces, this will save you an immense amount of time by not having to do that. You could just work with especially when you're just needing to create a 3D model without concern for dimensional values. You can get into just more of a standardized procedure in 3D modeling. This is done by pushing and pulling to form the model using the faces, the vertices, and edges. You can use some sculpting tools within the Freestyle tool as well. If need be, the model can be made a solid later on, and other features can be added to it. Also, if need be, you can integrate the model with other parametric assemblies. This, as I mentioned earlier, saves a lot of time and is ideal for designs that are ergonomic or organic, because that's what we typically see with product design. So this tool is going to aid that workflow. These are just two quick images of what I'm going to be going over today in the demo portion. So you see a pair of headphones here on the right for a concept that we see that we really want to get across and flush out. It could even potentially be the final design. Of course, you could always go back and make changes, but the left image is within the tool itself, and it's showing you start with very basic shapes and geometry, and you just start modeling from there, and you can continue to add shapes within a single feature to build whatever it is you're designing. And then from here, you can take it into Keyshot, and it could be directly tied to each other. It's connected. There is a Keyshot plugin for Creo that if you ever have to go back and change the design and the model, you can actually update it in Creo and it will cross over to Keyshot. So, and then within Keyshot, you can apply your materials, your lighting scenes, as well as render it out. You could even create simple animations that could be quite effective in marketing purposes. And on that note, I'd like to mention that Keyshot can also be used by any designer on your marketing team as well. It's not necessarily a CAD-based software program. Some designers or graphic designers might think that they need a background in 3D design, but that is not the case. They can simply work with a model just by applying certain scenes and lighting to render it out and have it a part of your marketing material as well. So with that said, not time for questions yet, but if you do have any questions, there should be a chat window. If as I'm going along, you could put in any questions, which I will be addressing at the end of the demo. So as you can see here, we have these headphones that were created all within the Freestyle tool, and it was just basically started with some cylinders, just some three-dimensional cylinders, and geometry and tessellation was added, and it was pushed and pulled and created. You can mirror a half of a model within here as well. So one half was created, and then within the Freestyle tool, it was mirrored along the plane in the middle, so we don't have to sit there and create a whole other side. So there is some symmetry functionality in the Freestyle tool. To make note of that, if that's what you want to do, you should make sure to create a custom plane, a custom datum plane before you start the Freestyle feature. So for now, I'm just gonna hide this. I just wanted to give you a representation, a look at this model to show you the power of the tool. None of this was created by any of these features in the top ribbon here. It was all done within a single Freestyle feature. I'm going to hide this for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and start a new Freestyle feature, and that is up here within your surfaces group right here. You'll see boundary blend, which is typically how things like this are done to get certain curves and ergonomic designs. But Freestyle is right there next to it. I'll touch on this a little later. If you have the ISDX tool, which is Interactive Surface Design Extension, that'll be in this group as well. But that's only if you have that extension. But Freestyle is part of the base. So within here, you'll notice I'm just going to touch on some of this interface. There's these tools will become active as soon as I have a shape in there, but I can start with any of these four three-dimensional shapes. In our case of the headphones, I like to start with a cylinder, and it doesn't come tessellated. What's nice about this is that you eventually and gradually start to build and add the tessellation yourself. So there's two tools up here. There's transform and scale. So I'm just going to scale this down. I'm going to start showing you how to get this outer piece designed. And I'm just concerned with getting the overall shape of this first. I'm gonna move this up some. There we go. Get this more centered here. There we go. And so what I like to do is once I like to start getting the overall shape of this first. So there's two ways to add edges. You can add a custom edge yourself with this add edge tool, but to keep things simple, I'm just going to do edge split. I'm just going to drag this up. I can do it again as long as I got this edge selected here, and add another one here. And you can see everything that's pre-highlighting here, the faces, the edges, the vertices, in order to push and pull this geometry here. I also want to point out too this transform axis right here. Let's say if I wanted this to turn, if I wanted this going, completely like at a 90-degree angle or close to it, I can reposition that as well. So I could just, if I choose reposition, I could turn it. It's not going to change the geometry. I'm just changing how this locator axis is positioned. So, and once I'm done, I'll choose to get off of that. And now I can, push and pull this, continue to do this again. Same thing down here. And later on, you'll see that there's another option in here too called relocate. That'll be helpful when we start seeing more geometry in here as well. So I'm going to keep adding more edges here, and I could go up to 1 split, 2 split, or 3 splits, and so forth, just to continue to add geometry. Some of you might be thinking there is a subdivision tool within here, which I don't want to do quite yet. I personally reserve that towards the end because if I want the entire shape to be subdivided just to have a higher quality tessellation and smoother creases and things like that, that's what I save that for. But until then, all I'm doing is adding, a few edges at a time just to start to get this shape going. So I'll continue on here. And this is how you start to quickly do this. I don't have to build a network of curves. I don't have to build quilts or patches, as some of you have known. I could just simply work with these shapes. I've been told by PTC that this is not a commonly used tool, but it's powerful for these types of things when you're trying to get your designs how you want them. So another neat feature I see here, I'm gonna start pushing this out a little bit, maybe this right here, to start to get this outer piece here. Could add another edge along this area here. And then maybe I'll add one in the center here to start to get some of my more of a smooth surface right here. So another thing I like to do is this edge selection. If I'm holding shift and I'm wrapping my way around here, and I'm holding control as well, I can get this edge loop a lot quicker. You see right there. I'm going to show this relocate, what this relocate does, because I don't want it pulling it from there necessarily. I want this as a whole. So if I hit relocate, I could just put it on another face, and then it'll drag it all out together like this or like this. So that's really neat. And while I have these edges selected, up here there's a crease functionality that controls, do you want your edges to be smoother or do you want them to be rougher, like a harder edge? So by default it's always on 100 with the harder edge right there. I can choose to decrease that, and you'll start to see that. Or if I change this to soft, now that controls how soft I want that edge to be. You can see the difference there. So typically I like this functionality here because it allows me to get, allows me to control certain areas of this this piece here. I'll do the same thing with this edge along here. Right there. I'll change that to soft. So now you can see the difference in that edge right there. Maybe that's what I want right there, if I drag this in a little bit further like that. I'll add another edge here. Edge split. I really like this edge split tool as we're continuing along to add geometry manually. So that's so let's say I could come back to this, at any given point. I accidentally subdivided it. I just wanted an edge right there. So let's say I'm just going to leave this piece for now. So as I mentioned, you could continue to add shapes in the same freestyle feature. I don't have to, add another freestyle feature. That's not what I would do. So we saw that piece earlier that's in between the cushion and the outer piece of the headphone. So if that kind of like metal or aluminum piece. So I could just choose to put another shape right within there, and there it is. So, and this will all stay together in the feature. What I really like too is I'll show you guys this in a little bit, but you can also change the more geometry you had, if you drag edges together and using the scale tool, you'll get like a crease. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. So I wanted about that thin. I'm going to switch back to transform tool here. Scale it up. Just going to leave that there for now. I could also, if I just kind of wanted if I wanted the shape to be closer to this shape, I could just copy the first shape. If I could just duplicate it, and now I'm going to drag that out, and then I'll manipulate this one to be something that's that represents that piece in the middle. So I could just flatten it a little more. I could probably subdivide it and get it, a little smoother and a little more circular. And then that way I could just put this against here. And now it's a little more uniform with that. It kind of starts to follow that design. I'm gonna switch back to my finished one here. So what I was talking about earlier, if you are in here, you'll see that this crease right here. So this ear cushion piece is all one piece, but a lot of times we see in the headphones this will be a crease to represent like either internal stitching or something along those lines, and then even another area right here. So what I like to do is select two edge loops and then use the scale tool to drag them together in order to achieve that effect. So I'm going to grab this first edge loop here. And this other one, then here. Now, if I use the scale tool, you can see that if I want a uniform scale. I'm actually going to add one more edge loop within there, split, and I'm going to use the transform tool. I'm going to relocate this. I could pick somewhere that's more central on it. And as you're doing this, you'll notice the it'll start to while you're moving it'll start to take its shape, and then after you're done it smoothes itself out automatically. And now I could choose these two edge loops again and then scale them in, which will give me this effect right here for a crease. So that's something that's really cool. As you get further, as you subdivide it and add more geometry, I could get, just for design, I could just get my designs to look, I could have a crease right here just for a look, kind of the same over here. We like to have those sleek look to our products nowadays, and that's how you start to get that with when you're adding more edges in there as well. I wanted to also show some sculpting features in there too when you have more geometry. Right here, I had used the sculpt tool which is this brush right here. You have pull, move, smooth, inflate, flatten. You control the size or the softness of the brush. So right now this brush is kind of small. So if I have this, let's maybe turn the intensity up. Slowly but surely, you'll start to see it automatically kind of push in and out. What I did first was I went every other edge loop and kind of like used the pull tool to pull it out, and then I used the smooth tool here to randomly go over it to get more of a scattered look to because these are just pieces of leather, and they're just however the leather is formed or however it sits after manufacturing. Like I was just trying to get more of a realistic look in the Keyshot scene, to where this is more of a scattered random shape. So there's also inflate and move, and you can see it's just grabbing those vertices right there to move them out. So this sculpting brush is pretty nice when you have higher tessellation. I wouldn't use this in a state where you don't have as much yet. There's this face split tool right here is if you need an inset. So if I have one of these faces selected, I'll change my selection filter here. This face split can inset one of these squares, and then it'll allow me to get geometry like a hole or something that that allows me to set it in, and then use the push tool to get something like this charging port right here, or I could use it to continue to use it and get a button. So that would be, see how it's inset right here along these edges. So I could do that actually along multiple faces. Just like this. And then if I use this, there's a 10%, 25, or 50. If I do 25%, I have this. And now it did that all as one shape. I'm gonna relocate this here. I'm gonna push it in at first. And then I could use this extrude tool, and then I could actually extrude this out. So it's nice because you could get geometry like that when you need to create buttons. And I could even inset this right here and get a finer, tighter edge along that crease in there. So those are just that I like using that inset tool especially for buttons, but it also helps when you're trying to get specific types of geometry within certain areas of it when you don't want to, when it's just trying to be, when it's more of a focused area. For this headphone strap, I used the extrude tool. So I had this initial piece right here, and then I copied it up, and then as I'm extruding, so I'll just add this here for now. I started with a cube actually, and I just placed it over this initial piece right here, and I have this top face selected, and I could just drag along, and I could rotate it, get more of a natural shape. You'll see it's automatically, you know, keeping it smooth as I'm extruding. So I hit extrude again, start to get this shape here, and you can tell it's, even though it's this piece right here is very low tessellation, you can see that it's keeping the bend smooth as I'm going along here. I just got to remember to rotate and position it in a spot to where it's going to be uniform along that bend, like this, and so forth. So that's the extrude tool right there. Helps you, you know, extend faces and, you know, move them along, because you're not going to continue to work with just one shape when you're in this tool. You're going to use several shapes. And then after that, I had it mirrored. So I'll turn on my planes real quick. Here's this plane I had created, and I put it right at the middle of this half, and I selected all the pieces that made up this first half, and I mirrored it along this plane, and so then it put it together, and I was able to have the headphone set. Originally too, since headphones have sort of that bend inwards, because they have that flexibility to, you know, as we pull the headphones out and stretch them and put it on our head. Originally, I had to take all of these and rotate them inward like this, and I had to extrude these inner faces here to get aligned to this plane first. So there's an align tool that'll perfectly align the faces or the edge loop that you want perfectly straight to the plane. So when you do mirror it, it'll have a curvature continuous connection, which means it's a smooth connection and you won't see any breaks, which is important to have on your model because you don't want to be showing off anything that has any breaks. All right, so let's get into the Keyshot portion here. Actually, before that, what I'd also like to show is, sorry, that's just my graphics card going on the fritz a little bit, if you're seeing it broken up. If you're doing just concept design, you don't have to worry about turning this into a solid for Keyshot. It's not necessarily concerned with that. It's just happy with any type of geometry. But before that, there's two things I'd like to show a little bit with ISDX. Some of your designers are used to working with you know, curves and boundary blends, and ISDX is a tool that still works with that, but all in one feature, which is nice. So if you have a finished model like this, they can actually model over it using the ISDX, or you can use ISDX tool to create something from scratch to where you're used to building something like that. But that's if you have that functionality. What this does, I'll just go into this here using the style tool. So style right here. Again, if you don't have this style tool in here, it means you don't have that extension. I'm gonna hide this one. So in here, it works a little bit differently. I'm gonna set my active plane to the front plane, and I'm gonna add a curve. And this is just a free curve, and I'm gonna go to my front plane viewport here, and let's say I wanted to start, emulating that design, and I just want to start to get a basic shape down. I could just start drawing these curves, and it's going to be along this plane right here. So there's the first one. Each time I want to change the plane as well, so I'm going to set the active plane to top. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to add another curve. And this may be, get this shape here. It's going out of whack here. There we go. I wanted that corner there. So I'll be there, and then I'll get one more down the middle here. So I need my right plane active. And I'll do another curve. I'm holding shift so I can connect to that corner right there, and this one down here as well. And then I'll go back in here and add points. Get this in orientation. If I add points, it'll give me the ability to start adding this curvature that I want. So now that I have this, there's a surface outside of this tool. It's called boundary blend, but it does basically the same thing. So if I choose this, might not do it because that's off just by a bit. But what I would do is I would select these three curves, and it'll create a surface. So some of you might call this a patch, and here it's called a quilt. And as I would go along, I would continue to make several quilts and several patches to start building like that outer piece of the headphone. So I would continue on down and get this centerpiece and then the lower piece, and then I would start using copying and mirroring tools and complete the surface. So I just wanted to show this real quick because that is another way to get a very similar type of part or design, but I've personally gravitated towards the freestyle tool because you don't have to worry about building a network of curves in here. So let's cancel out of this. So now in Keyshot, get this back in here. I have this plugin right here. So if this was ready, I'm gonna select the entire thing. I could go to either render or export. So exporting it will actually save it as a native Keyshot file, which is .vip. And then it would just be ready to open in Keyshot. So, which is here. Do this as fresh here. I'm going to go to import. It can also take in the part file as well, just so you guys know. So if I selected one of these, import it. So that's pretty cool if you have Keyshot and Creo together as well. And it takes a second here. So if I go to export here and I have all this selected, I'm gonna just title this folder that I know I'm gonna use. There we go. Two things. If you have Keyshot, you'll notice right off the bat, as I'm moving around here, the big selling point of Keyshot and the biggest benefit is being able to see it mostly rendered on the fly. You should be using a NVIDIA based graphics processing unit. It works best with that, because then instead of using the computer power, I can choose to use my graphics card, and also I could turn off the denoise. And now if I'm moving around, this isn't even textured yet, and you saw it was still struggling. So so this was just importing the part, and you can see the part file. And what I was showing in Creo here is, look, it's done with the .bip file. So either one works. You could do the part file, or you can do export it from that plugin. Now the trick is here is that this is all. Well, it did break it down. Normally, you have to, if it's all one model, you have to break it down. For instance, if I wanted this cushion piece to be separate from this back earpiece, there's an option to do that. So sometimes when you guys bring in models, you select whatever, you select the model, and you go to split separate objects, or split object surfaces, I'm sorry. And what it does is Keyshot takes you in this separate environment. It'll come up here in a second. And it allows you, it'll allow you to separate, it'll allow you to separate the mesh. So it's pretty dense right now, but so let's say I just wanted this, to be, if I wanted that inner piece to be, separate from that, so I could have it could be a different texture. There's two things I could do. I could do this polygon tool and raise my brush, and if I hold down the Alt button, it'll start selecting all these faces. Usually it's not this tessellated, not even close. It usually breaks it down a lot better. But I just want to show you this interface to show that you guys can split the objects. It looks like it already did it for me, because apparently I've done this already. So what I want to start showing you guys is the materials. This is the real fun part, is where you get to mess around, and this is where you start making it real shine. This is where you start to create a rendered out scene to get a realistic look to it. So you can search for textures. Keyshot also has a cloud library. If you have an account with it, you can have access to literally thousands of more textures, that some of them you just have to instantly download in here. But I just want a leather texture. There's a couple different ones, but this leather texture, for this piece right here. So wanting to do the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is open up a different one here. And let's see if this one will. That's better. All right, so it's automatically detecting, you know, it's already automatically detecting how to split this up. So I want, let's say I want this one to be, you know, its own piece. So I'm gonna hit split object, and you can see this list starts to build as I'm doing that. So I also want it to do to this one as well. Those two will both be the same material, but I might want, you know, a different texture. You know, if I wanted to change something on it, if it's always best to like leave these apart. I'm going to do the same with these two outer pieces as well. And sometimes it struggles to pick up certain spots. I'm just making sure we have that there. So I'm going to split that one. And then this side. Kind of just, it just like selects these groups. Split that. I want this one to be in here separate. And then the same with this strap. I could also go in here and choose to separate this head cushion piece from the strap itself. But for now, we're just going to do that. And then I'm going to hit apply. There we go. Got my window back. Turn on my graphics processing unit and denoise. And now you can see this is separate. The one other thing I got to do is make sure that I hit, I go to I unlink the material. So it's still going to want, so that way I can have these textured separately. So I'm going to just go back to the leather piece here. And I could just drag and drop onto the materials onto these separate parts. Looks like it missed some faces back there, but I'm going to show you guys a finished version of this here shortly. There we go. You know, and this is fun to work in here. I mean, it's endless. You could spend hours in here applying, you know, different looks and different feels. You could change the lighting in the background. You can add different lighting scenes in here as well and affect, you know, how it's lit. So I'll show you that here in a second. Let's say I want this. I got a separate hit unlink material there. That way it'll have its own separate texture there. And I hit no there, even though it's the same material. So just like sort of a semi-shiny plastic there. I got the leather right there for those pieces. In the finished version for these pieces in the middle, let's say I wanted like this to be a color color themed headset. Just to get some shininess going on there. And it's just dragging and dropping these textures on here. That's all I'm doing, which is really easy to work with. Let's say I want like a, I'm sure a lot of you guys see custom logos and custom labels. I can add that too. So with this one, if I go to the Edit Material tab and I go to Labels, I can add a logo, not the Skull Candy one. And then I can position this and scale it and put it wherever I want, and Keyshot will automatically put it along this surface. Right now I'm on the rotate tool. I'm going to choose the translate tool to move it, rotate it to get it a little more aligned with how that piece is right there. Could just drag it by scaling it down. So now I have a, if you guys have a company logo, and you wanted to add, a symbol or a logo to your piece, you can do that there. And this is why I separated these two. If I wanted to leave, like, say, one side blank, I could just add it again and copy over the same values that this side has as well. A few more things here I'm going to add. So another thing here to know is that when you're switching between these tabs in your project, you have scene, material, camera. I'm going to go back to my scene so I could keep selecting these objects. Same thing here. And let's say, there's glass, there's even liquids, which you can have some water effects in there, which you need a separate model for, but you can add something that has water in it as well. Let's say with this, I wanted something else that was kind of blue, like there's a bunch of plastics in here as well. So maybe something like that. Looks like we missed some faces there, but that's okay. I just want to show you guys what this looks like as you're starting to make this, build this scene out. So like I said, you could spend hours in here just going through these materials and setting up, all these materials are from real world materials, just so you guys know. That's Keyshot, that's where they get these materials from. So for lighting, I would go to my environment. It has good basic lighting, it has good standard, and you could render this out and use, basic lighting, or you could have a PNG file, which gives you that alpha background, which for those that don't know, is that when you render it out, it saves with no background. So I can choose to add my own lighting in here too. Some basic one is 3-point light. And what's cool about this is I could drag these lights along to position them where I want them. Depending on, you can see there's brightness and contrast changes as well. Under the HDRI editor is where you have a lot more functionality as well. So you can choose, okay, what color do I want these lights to be too? So if I were to change some to like a bluish color, you can start to see the change, maybe a little more subtle, something like that. Maybe the other one is a little more blue than that. So it could just kind of get a little bit of bouncing light. And this is also something you could spend hours doing to set up your scene, because if you want different looks and how things are, I could also change back to a color background, so it'll actually maintain the lights, but instead of using you know, the background for lighting, it's now a color. So let's say I'm just going to go something drastic. If you start to think about ads and how these things are put into ads, you know, you could render it out with a background color like this. Or if your graphic designer wants to put in you could do a gradient background. It just depends, again, like how you want it to look. I'm gonna make this a little more blue, kind of like that maybe. You know, it doesn't take much effort, you know, to get something to look nice. You don't have to go super crazy with the details. You could get something a little more photorealistic than this. But you know, this is already getting a good start to your scene, and it doesn't take much time. And then, so one last thing I wanted to show you guys was if I choose this animation tab right here. Well, let me turn that back off. I'm going to go back to my scene, and I can move this entire thing up, kind of off the ground here a little bit, if I don't want it on the ground. So let's say if I just want like a simple just turntable animation with just the headphones, I could change my frames per second as well. I like 60, it's nice and smooth. In my animation wizard here, I can choose, okay, it's asking me, what do I want? The model or part animation? Do I want a camera animation? If I choose turntable, it gives you a preview of what that's gonna look like. Choose this, and then hit finish. Now, and then I could extend the time as well. So if I wanted it more than 5 seconds, let's say I wanted it, you know, a little slower. And show you guys. It just gives you a quick preview of what this looks like. And then obviously it's not going to play that choppy when you render it out, but you know, it takes a little bit of a while for this to render out, but you could get it gives you a nice, you know, it gives you a nice animation, something simple. And on top of this, we could also like animate a camera going in and out of it as well. So we have that. We go to this right there. Yeah, I was just stretching this, trying to stretch this time out. So, and I would go back and do more with this scene, but this is a pretty good start and how quick you could build something. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys today. I'm going to take any questions you guys have at this time. I'll see if there's any in the chat. It doesn't look like there are now, but I'm going to leave this time open now for questions. Thank you guys for your compliments. I don't know, I think you left already. Scott, you're welcome. Eddie, you are very welcome. And just some of you guys, I'm going to just answer this now. One of them already left, but our webinars are all on YouTube the next day. So just follow our PDSVISION and subscribe to that channel, and you will see webinars. You will see this webinar the next day, as well as several others. So just so you guys know that if you wanted to see this recording. And I know some of you are leaving and you have to go, and that's okay. But I'll wait a few more minutes just in case there are any other. Todd, you're welcome. Glad you could join us. Thomas, you're welcome. Thanks for joining. Todd, you're most welcome. I'm glad you could join us. And there's only a few of you left. So I don't know if the remaining three here, Julie, Roman, or Shane, if you guys don't have any questions, feel free to leave. Otherwise, feel free to ask away. All right, well, I'm just going to end it there. Thank you guys again, and please be on the lookout for future webinars. And again, you could look at this on our YouTube page the next day. And have a good day, guys.